republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any correspondence or communications from the public? We do not. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Sam Wojcicki, the student representative report, if you will.
Hello. So at Wilkshire Family Fun Night is Thursday, April 25th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Bet that's going to be a lot of fun for the family. The first graders begin their trips to the Butterfly Gardens at MSU. At Rallia last week had a musical concert with their second graders and their third graders. They spent the week at Meridian Historical Village. Many of the students participating in the Mileage Cup are trying to earn their gold medal. At Murphy, the Murphy fifth graders are taking part in the pilot Smarter Balance assessments this week and next. In celebration of Arbor Day, the Murphy students have purchased trees. The middle school has raised $3,506.29 for Pennies for Patients this spring. HMS will be piloting the new Smarter Balance assessment this month. They will be testing the sixth graders and the eighth graders in math. At the high school, we would like to wish a good congratulations to the senior Johnny Wenzel, who is the National Merit winner for 2013. The Capital Area Athletic Conference will be recognizing several seniors, student athletes, at the annual award ceremony held on April 24th at East Lansing High School. The students, Sierra Bain, Tasha Bolda, Brendan Burns, Kenna Gaviza, Patrick Gifford, Alicia Little, Brian Martell, Dustin Rice, myself, and Christina Wood will all be attending. Also, one final thing at the high school, there will be a senior meeting on Tuesday, April 30th at 8 a.m. That's all I have for around the board.
Great, thank you, Sam. Superintendent's report.
Sam, you're part of that on Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
Good for you. That is probably one of the nicest evenings of the school year for high school seniors, so congratulations.
Thanks, that's what the principal told me today.
All right. Well, I'm pleased to introduce Sam Singh this evening. Mr. Singh is the state representative serving the 6th and 9th District, and I'd like to take credit for Sam coming this evening, but Kristen Belzer arranged to have Sam here this evening, so Kristen deserves the credit. And I'd also like to say, Sam, that you're a great supporter of public education. I appreciate that. But the speech that you gave to our honors night in March was probably one of the most inspiring that we've had here in many, many years. So I appreciate you coming out and taking the time, not only this evening, but back in March as well, because I thought the message that you gave our young people was appropriate and just spot on. So thank you.
Thank you
So,
very much.
anyways, if you want to
You
come
want me
to
to come up to the podium?
that'd be great.
And thank you for the opportunity to come here today. I want to be a little bit informal and maybe talk about a few things that are happening at the Capitol, but also get some feedback if I can. I don't want to take too much of your time and your agenda because I know you have a lot of other work to do. But again, thank you for the opportunity. And I also had the opportunity last week. Ms. Rice's third grade class invited me over to Raleigh, and we had an opportunity to talk about government and what I do on a day-to-day basis, and we had a lot of fun last week. So been pleased to be a part of a number of programs here in the Hazlet schools. Just to start off, I think as people know, I am on the Appropriations Committee, and specifically I'm the Vice Chair of the Department of Education Subcommittee and also the Vice Chair of the Higher Education Subcommittee. And so a lot of the work that I've been doing over the last few months on behalf of this district has been around education and education funding. And, you know, I think we all have said very early on there was a lot of good things, and there could have been, I think, some better things maybe down the road for education funding. Again, I think the budget that the governor presented very positively impacted a couple areas, especially around some of the legacy costs and so forth. But I think there were some areas where I was hoping for more and was trying to, at least in committees, to see more, which was to get our allowance, our foundation allowance up. Because we know that's the money that goes into our classrooms. And unfortunately, in this budget did not provide for that. And during the committee process, as amendments were offered and so forth, that did not provide for that. So the process is at I would say at a halfway point, maybe at a 3/4 of the way point. And so we're still in conversations. We'll be voting on the budget this week, and then the Senate will be doing the same. And so over the next 4 weeks or so, we'll find some common ground. But the good thing is, for all districts, as it has been for the last couple of years, we'll come to some conclusion by the July timeframe. And so as you get into your new fiscal year, you'll at least have a set sense of what dollars and resources are available. Just on a few policy items that I'd like to get some feedback at some point, whether it's today or down the road. There's a lot of conversation around changing the merit curriculum. They're taking a look at the math requirement, taking a look at the foreign language requirement, and I know you've all grappled with those issues since the change in the mid-2000s, but would love to get some formal feedback from you as I take a look at this. I'm not on the Education Policy Committee, but I know that it'll be coming to us in maybe in the next month, or maybe in the fall if we don't get to it before the summer time frame. So I think that's a really hot topic that would be pleased to get your feedback along with any of your faculty members' feedback. And then as some of us were together last week at one of the association gatherings, we talked briefly as a side conversation about a number of the bills that have been introduced that deal with the sinking fund and expanding the opportunity of what we can use the sinking fund for. There were, I think Mark Meadows, my predecessor, had the opportunity to introduce one on technology a couple of times that unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to go very far. But most recently, one of my colleagues, a Republican, Mike McCready, has introduced a bill that does expand the use, specifically around security purposes to retrofit buildings, to deal with kind of the increased need for us to have security, and then also for technology use. It still hasn't had a chance to have a hearing yet within the Education Committee, but now that it's being introduced, I do think it's an opportunity for us to kind of hear, and I know on your agenda you're looking at that sinking fund on your own for your own purposes, but that expansion would be interesting to get your feedback at a certain point as well. So those are kind of the items that I wanted to just touch base on. This is the fourth of the 4 school districts that I've had the opportunity now to come and formally meet, and if it makes sense to do something in a private or more quiet work session where we can actually dialogue, where you don't have other agenda items, I'm open to that. Or if it's kind of one-on-one dialogue with the superintendent. I know we've been pleased to earlier in January had an opportunity to get together with many of the superintendents through the ISD. I think we have a date scheduled for next month to continue that dialogue. But it's all been helpful for me to kind of get your feedback as we kind of go through the process. So let me just stop there and see if I can answer any questions or get any preliminary thoughts.
Questions?
Sorry. I think we all kind of looked at each other when you said maybe a work session. It's hard for us to speak as, in this format,
Sure.
as one. I mean, obviously, we're 7. But in a work session kind of a format, I think we've done really well at kind of taking these issues and giving consensus.
Sure.
And, these are issues that I think we're fairly familiar with and probably could have a good dialogue about and I think give you some constructive feedback. So
Sure.
we appreciate the opportunity and, if it's the will of the board, I'd certainly be willing to do a work session kind of format.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Sam, I appreciate the fact that you would come out and be a part of our group. Obviously, I know education is important to you. We've talked about that before. Specifically, in terms of the foreign language and math requirements, I think you could be all over the place. I wouldn't put it anyone better in this district than Sharon Jones to ask what we need to do about that.
Sure.
So many of these things that we do really kind of become, test pilots for standards. And,
appreciate, Sam, very much your being here and asking for our feedback, as I don't know you as well as some of my colleagues, but I've been very impressed with everything I've heard so far, and I get excited about the thought of your representing us, because what I hear from you is an approach to everything of what is the best place that we're trying to get, what are the different ways to get there, and then let's get there, instead of this is how we do it or how we don't do it or whatever. So I think that will serve our whole district well and our state well. And then to have the opportunity for us to give you some feedback, I'd really appreciate too, because I feel while we've in many ways benefited from some of the policy changes over the last couple of years and have seen a lot of positive movement in education, I continue to feel that districts like ours that are doing the right thing and doing a good job, we're not the squeaky wheel and we aren't getting any grease. And there's a lot of changes. There are all these things that happen because there are outlying districts that are not doing their job, and we're paying for that too.
Sure.
And we're doing our job. These folks are doing their job. And so, to see some of the direction of these policies continue to move, but recognizing that there are successful districts that don't need their hands tied in yet another way, to have a voice for that would be outstanding.
Sure.
Well, I'd just like to, assuming I'm wrapping up, yes. But thanking you for coming, but it certainly is a great pleasure to have you reaching out to us. And, it's a great opportunity for us to interact with you. I agree with Rob that this format, while we appreciate you coming, certainly isn't the ideal format for any interaction and sharing thoughts. I think we'll take a hard look at it, maybe doing a work session that you could participate in. As long as we're all satisfied that that's a good use of your time. Sure. And not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Certainly you can interact with Mr. Dugan and Ms. Jones, and they're really our leaders in any event anyhow. But thank you very much for taking the time and joining in. Really appreciate it.
Right.
Question?
I think so. Whether he'll answer it, we have
You alluded to it, and it's foundation allowance, and that whole discussion is interesting to see how it's playing out. The governor's office sort of saying still tied to certain improvements, and looks like the Senate took some of those conditions away and raised up the foundation allowance. Where do you see that going? And we find ourselves in an interesting spot. We are now the lowest. We're at the lowest level of foundation allowance in the district of the state. That actually happened to us last time. As the lower ones got lifted up to where we are now among the very lowest. And I don't think that was that surprised people that we weren't among those districts to move up, and that we didn't actually see any new money as a result of last year's incentives. So it's kind of interesting to see how incentives have played out for high-performing school districts that are at the low end.
Sure.
We're kind of the ones that got left behind a little bit.
Well, I think that's part of the dialogue that will happen between the House and the Senate. I think there are, now that we've been under 2 years of a budget that has some incentives tied into it, sometimes when you take a look at the incentives, it doesn't necessarily benefit those who've always been performing well because it shows growth. But if you're already at, let's say, the top tier, how much growth can you actually show in a given year? And so I think as we're looking at those types of things, and it's going to take us a few of these cycles to actually get the metrics right and to get them to the point where we're actually incentivizing the right behavior, but then rewarding past behavior. And I think, unfortunately, because of the rush of trying to get things done, sometimes in a budget, some of those, whether it was here on the K through 12 level, or if they were with the communities through the EVIP program, or also on the higher ed, I think there was not necessarily mistakes made, but I think maybe too much of an emphasis on one metric versus another. And I think you're seeing some of the actions by the Senate saying, oh, we should probably take a couple steps back and really see where we're going. And so, again, I don't have the crystal ball to tell you what will be resolved once the House and Senate get into conference, but I definitely know that there is an an understanding that it's not a one-size-fits-all system, though we've created metrics for that. And so I think there's an awareness that we need to kind of change them, but I don't know if there's consensus yet on what those changes would be, so.
You know, I think we've been generally conceptually supportive of incentives. But as you just said, you know, the way they've played out, they really haven't rewarded those, you know, who, were maybe high performing, didn't have as much room to move. I think that's kind of what has happened here, and maybe the case study for how they didn't maybe play out the way people thought they might have.
Well, thank you for that feedback. Again, I'll take that back to our committee work, and we'll continue through that process. All right, thanks. Yep.
Do you have anything further on the superintendent's report? Thank you. Well, before we do that, hold on just a second. Usually people will clamor at me when I make a mistake of the agenda, and they let me slip by. Actually, after asking about correspondence, if we have any comments from the public, I see Supervisor Clark is here. I don't know if you're just here to observe or.
Just here to be here.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your presence. And with that, I assume there are no other comments from the public. So with that, we can move on to our discussion items, and I appreciate Superintendent Colgate's patience in waiting for me to get to him after that. We have, as our first discussion item, the Hingham Intermediate School District's budget, which gets presented to the various constituent districts to approve or to disapprove and make comments on. And we have the Hingham Intermediate School District Superintendent Stan Colgate here to help us with that process and share his thoughts. Mr. Colgate.
Thank you very much. As you know, this is a law that passed, talking about laws in '04. Before that, that wasn't part of the landscape, but it is now. I've been told by Mike I have 2.5 minutes, so I'll try and talk fast. But if you look at the,
I feel like
yeah, okay. Hopefully you have this in front of you. I think, okay, good. In that first paragraph of the first page there, it talks about 3 areas: enhancing achievement and success of all learners, maximizing school and community resources, and increasing community support. Those are the 3 main goals of the ISD, but they're also the 3 main goals of the roundtable. So, there is that internet between the roundtable, what the roundtable's needs and what the locals need and what the ISD is trying to accomplish. So if I could just direct you to the 3rd page of this document. You can see the very first sentence talks about the general fund has strongly shaped to support local district instructional improvement. We've dramatically changed our organization over the last 5 years. We no longer have a general ed department. We no longer have a special ed department. We have student instructional services. We have student support services. We really have focused and changed everything to support the whole concept of RTI and MTSS. The whole thing, how do we make all children successful? Johnny Scott from Holt was talking to me about how he used to send people to Hingham, and somebody we trained in this, and Sharon remembers this, somebody would ask us, we train them in this, and so 10 of his teachers would know this, and 10 teachers would know that. He says, now, I send my teachers to ISD, and so all they learn is oatmeal. Well, maybe that's not bad, because so we are. We are focused on the RTI and MTSS. I believe we have found a good thing throughout the county, and it was not an IC initiative as much as all of us coming together and deciding this, and we're sticking with it. We know about anything that you go through change, it takes a while for change. You have to find something good and stay with it, and really that's what we're doing. So that's really the process we've been using. If you please would turn to page 4, you can see it talks about our budget, our general fund budget. We had approximately $21 million. The vast majority of that money is flow-through dollars. We get early childhood, we do the sub-calling system, we do many other things. The extra dollars that we utilize for our programs is under $5 million, so that really isn't, a lot of this money's there, but it's not something we can use. And even though it generates staff, if those programs disappear, then that staff would disappear also. You can see that our fund balance is about $1.4 million, and that we're actually in deficit spending. And we have been for actually the last year, and probably at least for another year we're going to do that. We'll keep dwindling it down. But the reality is, this is not a time we can stop supporting what's going on, you know. And you guys are the poster child, you know. When we talk about RTI and MTSS, we always talk about, look at the results you've seen in this district. You guys are just phenomenal. Some of the above 80% in some of your work, and that, you know, that's just great work. And you guys started a little before everyone else, and you really have been focused. I know the board adopted things, and that really shows what your results. And so it's always good to have a district like this that's really leading the way. For those, some of those are struggling, but they're moving along. So the next page tells you where most of our revenue comes from. And you can see at the very top, you see local. We've got about 1.5 million in property taxes. Then next to it, you see state, 1.7 million. 1.4 is Section 81, which is a categorical set aside just for ISDs. So that's really the money that we have coming in our ISD. The rest of the money, if you look on the bottom there, is really most of what we'd call is flow through, coming in from different types of things, everything from early childhood, which is up to 4.7 million, in Central Michigan substitute calling system, which is 4.8 million. So you can see the bulk of the dollars are coming in and going out throughout that. So that's really how our revenue works. Then if you look at expenses on the next page, again, if you tie those two pages together, it's mostly flow in, flow out. If you look under support services, where it has 6.3 million, the bulk of the dollars we spend really revolve around MTSS and RTI. You can see that student instructional services, 1.4 million. Instructional data software and evaluation, that's Illuminate Ed that we're doing throughout the county. You can see the bulk of our money is flowing through those and a few other places. We have a couple reductions in staff this year. We're not filling those jobs to continue to try and reduce the deficit we have, but we are still continuing to be focused on ensuring that this great work we're doing in instructional support for students continues, because it really does work, and we're seeing the results. So I don't have anything else. I don't know if within my 2.5 minutes, but I'd be glad to take any questions. Next 2 or 3 pages, really, if you have any of the programs that we talk about, they're actually highlights and explains what those programs are. And if you went online, this is also interactive, so you can get even more data if you wanted to go through that.
Stan, where does your funding stand this year compared to last year? Gate, you have to balance it. Is there any, you see any future for expanding any of the other intervention type programs to help the high achievement students?
You know, and honestly, there's not a lot. You know, we have some money that we work with through MSU, you know, the CHAMPS and some Dimension programs, and some that comes from DART and a couple other foundations we have. But those have not increased over the last 3 or 4 years. In fact, they've static or actually dropped a little bit. So there is, you know, we look for that, you know, and one of the concepts certainly of the MTSS is in the 3rd tier. Really, that is for gifted talent, not only for severely kids that need a lot of help, but you know, as Frank said, there really is no money out there, because we have been looking and we'll continue, because that still continues to be an important aspect.
Questions for
Thank you for coming, Stan. Are you affected by sequestration at this point? Is that
There will be some effect to some of the special ed dollars. You know, we have the millage, of course, which generates about $45 million, but we get about $20 million through federal dollars that, you know, that flows back. So there will be some. It doesn't seem to be much right now, 5% or less, and so it really won't impact us to next year, because most of the money's through already, but there will be some hit against our federal ed dollars.
We've had a report from our high school staff and students about their experience with early college. Anything you want to share on the countywide perspective of how that's going?
You know, I've gone to a couple of their programs, and the kids are just doing phenomenal. You look at their test scores. Actually, our early college test scores are better than the students coming into the program. And, you know, remember, this early college is not something you have to have high GPA. 2.0 or better is all you need. So it's phenomenal in that regards. In honesty, our numbers are down, you know, because the reality is every child that goes to early college, that's money you lose in a district. So that's a challenge. We're trying to expand it. We've got Eaton Rapids, and actually I'm meeting with the soup from Langsburg tomorrow to get some of the more of the tri-county to go forward. But it still is just doing some phenomenal stuff. So this is our second full year. So next year, hopefully, we'll have some kids who will be graduating with up to associate's degree. So we're really excited about that. If any of you ever want to come see that program, they have a separate building. The superintendents have been out there and seen it. It's just very good. You know, so there's some really neat stuff going on out there.
Stan, do you know, you probably don't because it's the second year of early college, but do you have any idea what percentage of those students will go on to four-year colleges?
Yeah, we don't. You know, historically, if you look at early colleges throughout the state and the actual nationally, there is over 90% that go on. But we don't know that yet, if that'll be the same for us.
Well, thank you, appreciate your coming.
What's the timeline on this, Stan, that before June, right?
June 1st, well, it has to be back to our board by June 1st.
Deal with this at the next board.
Yes, yeah,
Right, so this
that works.
will be an action item next meeting, which means if anyone has any questions, needs any more information, you need to request that right away. Get in touch with, I presume, with Mike, who will then relay it.
I'd be glad to come back if there's any questions.
Thanks
Thank
for
you very much. Have a good
feedback.
evening.
Thank you.
You were right on the 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Okay, the next discussion item that we have is regarding the sinking fund millage proposal. As noted in our agenda, the Finance and Facilities Committee has met and looked at this on March 8th, February 22nd, February 8th. We have had this on our agenda previously as a discussion item. I'm going to have Chris review for us a little bit where we stand on this, and the Finance and Facilities Committee analysis of this and where we stand on it. But this will have to be an action item at our next meeting. We only have one meeting in the month of May, and if we are going to approve this, and if it is going to be on the August ballot, it will have to be passed at our May meeting. So that's why we have it back before us today. Chris, would you care to give us a review for us a little bit how we got here?
Sure, now we'll keep it under 2.5 minutes. But yeah, as Don said, it's back on the agenda really more for a procedural reason to put us in a position to vote next month. And as I know you guys recall, on the Finance Committee, we looked through we had long discussions about the projects that we were considering using a building and site sinking fund for, discussed what we thought the district looked like with that additional millage, what it looked like without additional millage, and how we felt about that, and how we felt what our responsibilities were. And in the end, we strongly felt that it was our responsibility to lead the district toward seeking an additional millage in order to properly take care of our facilities and have this district continue to maintain the standards that we've had so far. Since then, we've had one meeting, an elementary PTO meeting, where we had 4 parents come and several of us there to discuss the sinking fund, and Steve did a great job of doing a presentation to explain, and I think that the parents there generally felt were supportive of this effort and saw that it was something that was appropriate for moving the district forward. And I think maybe some of us have had the chance to discuss it with other people and with staff in the community as we've gone about our business since that last meeting. At that parent meeting, one of the parents suggested that in addition to possibly just putting information, and Mike has got an article for the Blackboard as well, that we consider putting a video on the website, kind of a Q&A about the Building and Site Sinking Fund, and explaining what it is and why we are seeking to put it on the ballot. And that seemed to be an idea those of us at the meeting thought was a pretty good one to pursue. So I don't know if in the course of your conversations or meetings, any of you have had any other questions come up. I've heard generally favorable things and feel comfortable recommending that we look to move forward with an August election for 1.25 mils for an additional building and site sinking fund.
We've presented to 5 different staffs, 5 separate staff meetings in the last couple of weeks. I would say that it's been very favorable amongst the staff.
showed us tonight, this, we do have another little bit of information.
It's essentially what this, Pat Heffer put this together, and it is a calendar from August through June of this year, which outlines the number of days as well as the different activities that the auditorium is used for. And as you peruse that document, you'll see that, for the most part, that facility, the auditorium, the Performing Arts Center, is used on a daily basis. It's a little bit of a respite sometimes on the weekends, but for the most part, it is used.
And you can tell too the way he color coded by, you know, a variety of organizations and types of uses too. It just, you know, this is what we knew with anecdotally, and this is just the data that shows us that.
I would say between the cafeteria and the Performing Arts Center, that would be Grand Central Station, that's where those.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. Before we go to broader discussion, just for any public out there that may be watching to review, the couple of the key things here is that the sinking fund, unlike a millage, is not like a line of credit. It is a savings account, essentially. It's a purely pay-as-you-go type of thing. So you're not looking at borrowing money, paying interest, spending it, and then seeing how long the facility lasts. It would be a 10-year sinking fund. We cannot do anything until we actually get the money in to fund what we're spending. So we're funding this if it passes, which it will have to be voted on by the public. We'd be paying for things as we go along and as the funds come in. The talk about the Performing Arts Center was one of the main things that we were looking at needing the money for. But in general, it's for improvements to our buildings and our physical facility. It cannot, by law, be used for wages, salary, those kinds of operational things. So this isn't saying it's going to come in and get siphoned off, that this is to cover things that otherwise we don't have the funding to cover. And some of it has been quite a while since there's been work done on things like the Performing Arts Center. But this is a 10-year timeline for this too. So this isn't like, if we do this, we're going to do the Performing Arts Center this weekend. We have to get the money in again so it will be paced out, with that general reminder, other comments, Ms. Leonard?
Question about, in terms of timelines, we had talked a little bit about there be some budget forums and or other public meetings or gatherings, opportunities for the general public to ask us questions, for us to share information at meetings or timing.
That's what we already just talked about. We already had an elementary one. There's a middle school, high school one on the calendar for May 8th. And then there is the choir boosters and a band boosters meeting.
So the one elementary was intended to, everyone was invited.
Correct, the 3 elementary schools are invited.
Let me follow your line of thinking, that was in some ways to inform our decision to put it on the ballot. What about as we get closer, I think talking to the community about, as they consider their vote and support or not of it,
Yes.
we see doing some community forums.
Absolutely.
Well, we're allowed to present facts about it. We aren't allowed to campaign. So, actually right here is a draft of Blackboard that's got an article with facts about it that will go forward if we were to decide to move on it. And I think there would be other, we would want to talk about other ways to get the word out. There would be challenges with August, because people would possibly be out of town and might need to plan in advance to do that. And just as a reminder too, the reason we were recommending August was that if it does pass in August, it would allow us to actually begin collecting the funds this year, and therefore allow us to start on some of the projects by next summer. If we were to wait for a later election, we would lose the chance to have any revenue until 2014, which would put projects off even farther. So that's
Does this grant go to the households
It's supposed to go to every household. Remember, it's mailed with bulk postage, and therefore it isn't required necessarily to be delivered by the postal worker. And so we do, the intent is it goes to every household. We also have a short mailing list of people that we send the Blackboard to that have reported to us that they don't receive it when it comes out. And in addition, we have talked about sending a special edition Blackboard out. I think we did that the last time. Rob wrote an article for that. It's just like a back and front kind of special sinking fund flyer that would also go to every household. And if we were to do that, we would have to think about timing in terms of what would be the best time to send that out. That's, but those are two things. What?
Exactly.
Oh. Are you serious?
No, I'm serious. We want to have that thing on teed up in July 4th.
Oh, you're, okay, I
They
see.
they sit down and.
I
and
see.
work.
So
Hit that.
that edition could go out the end of June, if you wanted that.
But I do, and then again, this parent at the elementary meeting thought that having on the website a webinar or something would be,
Yeah, I think that,
yeah.
that's great.
So, in the past, this was a parent who had taken the time to click on presentations that Steve's put on there before and look through.
It's an excellent thing.
So, technical question, I think it's, this Exhibit A in the resolution, is it the language that we also talk about?
Exhibit A is the ISD.
Exhibit A in the.
Oh, in attachment B, okay.
So, shall we? I believe so. Is this, do we submit language? I'm just trying to figure out technically how this.
Yeah, and we must.
Yes, yes.
So I wonder if I'm reading this as someone who might go read this and decide. And, it isn't our intent to buy real estate. So the way it's written, it says, shall it be increased to create a sinking fund for the purchase of real estate for sites for, and the construction and repair of school buildings and all other purposes authorized by law. I don't know why we put real estate in there.
Yeah, that's sinking fund language,
And
and
I know
that's
it
not
is,
what
yeah.
we're, yeah.
But I'm afraid people will read that and say, well, the school doesn't need to be buying up property, not our intent.
Right.
And, I just think if. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that we have flexibility to do that,
That's
so
what
we can check it.
I can find out.
Yeah, if we didn't have to lead with real estate, or say real estate at all, it says all other purposes authorized by law.
It sounds kind of Donald Trumpish.
Yeah.
The whole thing's like, site and sinking fund.
I know, yeah. I'm just, I know how this will work, there will be some people who really will read this and think, well, I'm either for that or against that simply by reading this language. And so the language needs to be as close to what we're really trying to accomplish as possible.
Which just gets back to the language and how we're selling it in the Blackboard or any other place
Yes,
where we would
right.
be advertising or discussing in a public forum the rationale behind it. It needs to match the.
But there may be legal
Text.
requirements that.
Right, I think
Yeah.
exactly, I think
Yeah.
that's probably sinking fund language right there, and that's why we have to use it.
That speaks to another reason to have more conversation as opposed to less
Absolutely.
conversation. To clarify that and be able to answer that question explicitly. We have no plans to purchase property.
Well, Mike will check in there.
Yes.
My reaction was the same, like when I read that, it was last night, I like, buying real estate, what's that all about? I suspect that it's probably I don't really care, as long as it's the local newspaper. We need something to go in there. The 1.25 mils, I would comment, I guess, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, that your committee looked at different village levels. We kicked around several of them.
Yes.
And this was really driven not by figuring out how much money we could spend, but going the other direction and seeing what the needs are and what adequate funding would be.
If we were going to ask the community, we want to ask the community once, and we want to ask the community based on best information that we have, and ask the community for a millage that reflects those values that we've been discussing of being good stewards of our resources. And when you look at the revenues with a millage of one, we would find ourselves having conversations in the next couple of years about which projects we can't do that we want to do. And 1.25 feels still true to our fiscally conservative principles and responsibility, but puts us in a situation where we ought to be able to do a good job of taking care of what we need to take care of.
And over the next 5 to 10 years, when some of us won't be here,
Yes.
that we lay the foundation for this board to not look back and say, you know what, they should have done? They should have done, should have bought that entire property and given it. Should have. We don't want to be those shoulda, coulda, woulda people. We want to be visionary and we want to do it right. And as Chris said, and be fiscally conservative in terms of not asking our taxpayers to go above and beyond what we think we need to do. And I think it's being very responsible, so.
Thank you.
Should've.
You've already said this, Don, but I think the most compelling part is the favor we're doing for future board members is we're not ignoring investment in physical property. We're putting money in our savings account so that we can pay for it when those needs come, as opposed to ignoring them and making them go into debt.
Right.
So I think that down the road, I think families understand that rather pay for it out of saved dollars than putting them in credit.
And that's also, it's got both a burden and a plus side of, you have to evaluate everything when the project comes right in front of you, and look at it on that present day basis, whether it's this summer or 2 summers from now or 8 summers from now. And whatever board is here, whatever leaders are here, will be able to take into account the conditions at the time. Both too, I think that we've discussed how one of the reasons we're doing this is because we are not in a position to ask for a new bond, and it doesn't appear that will be the case in the foreseeable future. And who knows if that will change and how that would impact a future board's decision of using this. But again, if this is set up this way, they'll have all those options at the time of.
Not only can't we go for a bond in the foreseeable future, but for some of us, namely myself, it's much more appealing to pay for it as we go than
Yes.
go into debt, buy stuff, and then see if it becomes obsolete before you get the bond paid off.
Yeah.
I hate seeing that happen. It hasn't happened in our district, but I've seen it other places. Any other comments or discussion on that discussion item?
So if we just maybe ask that if, since we don't have a meeting before we have to vote on this, if maybe we could get in the next, I don't know, between now and then, before the Friday before the next meeting, get the new language, or find out whether this language is something we're stuck with or not.
I can find out
If
tomorrow.
so that way if we have to have any discussion, maybe we could have a committee, whatever.
Go to the committees to discuss it. We're not going to be able to discuss it more,
Right,
more quorum
Right.
in any sense. Thank you. Board reports. Policy and Personnel Committee.
We have not met, but I'm certainly looking forward to moving.
Friday.
Out there soon, isn't that great? I better make sure I have it.
that's an intimidating response to haven't met. How about finance and
Well, I was gonna
facilities
say,
committee?
do we have a meeting that I should know about? May 24th. Oh, that's so long.
That's a Friday, 7:30.
May 24th.
That's a 7:30.
Okay, well, that's right, we did, right. Dave wants us to meet over here.
Maybe you have that.
May 24th? Okay, items from board members.
If I could just mention one thing, the foundation held their annual event a week ago, last Saturday, and another successful evening for the foundation. I'm not sure on the exact number yet with all the sponsorships, but it was a very well-attended evening. Auditorium was packed for the Taste Got Talent, and the vendors that showed up did a marvelous job. So it was another great evening.
The talent was terrific there.
It was very well done, very well done. Kids did a great job. Well done. Matt Sauer came back, did his SWC with Kelly Flagg. I think Reed participated. Well done.
Excellent. Any other items? Okay, well, then we'll move on to our action items. And we have three of them. Read them, and then you can have the opportunity to pull any that you may care to pull from the consent agenda. Action item 1 is approval of minutes of the March 25, 2013 regular board meeting. Item 2 is approval of the 2013 to 2014 Schools of Choice Resolution. Action item 3 is the Charter Township of Meridian 2013 Summer Tax Collection Agreement. Does anyone want to have any one of those three pulled from, or more, from the consent? Does anyone want to move for approval of the three consent agenda items?
I move we approve the 3 action items.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor of approving the 3 action items, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes carry it. Announcements. The next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held here in the boardroom on May 13, 2013 at 7 p.m. And I believe that is the only announcement. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I support that.
Motion and second. I assume no discussion. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? We are adjourned.
You thought I was done?
This is the architectural rendering, I guess you call it, of what this preschool wing will look like. And it will be located on the east side of Wilkshire, at the end of the bus loop, for those of you who are familiar with that project. It is truly a collaborative project. It is truly one where we have talked back and forth about how we could work together for young children. It is going to be financially self-sustaining preschool program. It will be for 3 to 5-year-old children, and it will be open to not just Hazlet children, although our Hazlet children will have a priority, but it will be open to children in the greater Hazlet area. We, Hazlet Public Schools, will furnish the facility, and we have worked very closely with MSU in terms of some of the needs that they'd like to see, some of the pieces of equipment and some of the layout that they would like to see, as well as something that would work for us to construct a facility for preschool programming. Michigan State University is going to provide 40 years of expertise in early childhood education. I think they are number 1 or number 2 in the nation in terms of recognized as the program that trains early childhood educators. The Department of Family and Child Ecology will enroll the students. They'll create, develop, and administer the program to address child development, family needs, teacher development, and research. They will provide master level teachers and the consumable supplies to plan and develop the program and to perform program services. And in addition, they will arrange for and manage teaching experiences in the program for qualified university students. Hazlet Public Schools, because of this collaboration, will be able to expand preschool opportunities to meet the needs of children and their families. We are committed, and we already have done this, designed, and we will be starting construction this spring on the new preschool wing. We will equip it, and it will have 5 classrooms, a multi-purpose room, and some support spaces. And then we will provide utilities and maintain the facility for the program. We will also, with Michigan State University, inform the community and encourage our young children and families to participate. In terms of the program features, it is a very unique model and an ideal setting for learning for young children and for university students. We will be a setting where university students will be trained to become preschool teachers, and it will also be a site for longitudinal research. And we are also excited about the opportunity to integrate a variety of student populations. That is probably one of the most exciting pieces for me personally and for our community, is that we will be integrating at-risk students, special needs students, and all students in the Hazlet area. So we will be creating heterogeneous classrooms instead of segregated classrooms for these populations. The program itself will be financially self-supporting, and parents will pay tuition. We will have foundation grants from the state for our pre-primary impaired students. We will have grants from Head Start and Michigan School Readiness for some of our children, and we will be seeking scholarship money from various organizations to assist others so that they can attend. It is not carved in stone yet in terms of exactly what the program elements will be. That will be what we will spend the next year and a half doing. But depending on the needs of the community, we propose at this time that we'll have 2 full-day programs, 9 hours, 5 days per week. We'll have 3 half-day programs, 3.5 hours, 5 days per week, with programs in the morning and the afternoon. We intend to include pre-primary, Michigan School Readiness, Head Start, limited English proficiency preschool students. And we, with the help of Michigan State University, hope to provide parent education opportunities. And we or not we, but Michigan State will provide master level certified teachers. And it will be a teaching and learning training site for MSU students. Because of this collaborative project, we will be able to increase community access to quality preschool experiences for young children. We also, in looking down the road, think that there is a potential increase in school of choice requests for Wilkshire. And as our district faces a flat enrollment at best, we are hoping that this will help us to maintain that enrollment through an interest to when you start at Wilkshire, you'll want to just finish your career at Haslett Public Schools. And we are confident, as Michigan State University has assured us, that we will certainly have a lot more national and state visibility as a school district because of this unique project. As we said earlier, it will be self-supporting. It will meet the needs of the children and families of Haslett. The project partners, MSU and Haslett Public Schools, are committed to work collaboratively to adjust the budget and or program tuition rates to maintain any shortfalls or any excesses. The partners, together, we will put forth efforts to generate additional income if necessary. For example, we might receive donor grants, additional program offerings, or we could even sell materials that are developed for this program. And presently, as we put together a budget, our hourly preschool tuition rate is less than or equal to what parents in Haslett are spending right now for preschool education. Wilkshire is the triangle. That's not quite a triangle. And attached to the east side, you see the preschool wing. Five classrooms, an office, and a multi-purpose room. We hope to open August 2005. We're committed to having information available this spring. And applications for attending the preschool will be available through MSU's Child Development Lab or through Haslett Public Schools. That's my piece of the presentation, but I'd like to introduce June Hewitt, and she is the assistant to the provost for Michigan State University. And we've invited her here this evening to say just a few words on the university's behalf.
Well, thank you, Sharon. I'm delighted to be here. I'm here on behalf of the provost, Dr. Luana Simon, but also as assistant provost for undergraduate education, I have a very significant stake in this because this will change the nature of the way that we prepare undergraduate students in early childhood education at Michigan State University. Let me just say a couple of things contextually, because I'm certainly not the person to talk about the details of the agreement, but there are a couple of things that I did want to say. This is a unique partnership between a school district and a major university. And this kind of partnership could only happen, I believe, with a land-grant university. I think it's very fitting that this will open in 2005, which is the sesquicentennial of the university. The pioneer land-grant university that was established for the public good and to serve the people of Michigan. And this really is, I believe, an expression of the ways in which the university serves both the good of the community, but certainly in this case, the community partners with the university. Let me make just a couple of points about the distinction of what's going to happen here as compared to some other places. Lots of school districts have preschools. I don't believe there are any other school districts that have laboratory schools. And that's a distinct difference because we have lots of people in this community who do wonderful early childhood education and do wonderful preschool education. Many of their practices and procedures came about, what they do in their schools happened because we learned it first at Michigan State University. We're a laboratory school, which means we systematically study the processes of teaching and learning and how children grow. And then we reinvest that learning into what we do with children. And that's what's going to happen in Hazlet. This is not a canned program that's coming to Hazlet. It's a program that will develop as we work with Hazlet children, as we learn about children, as we do our research, and then we reinvest it. And so not just Michigan State, not just Michigan, but the nation will look to Hazlet for what we learn and know about children. We expect that there will be a great deal of research that will, of course, be vetted through the school board and through the community that will go on here. We think there's great grant-getting opportunities here because we will be able to try some new things because we're so embedded in a community. We're going to be able to work with families in different ways and have families work with the university. There are just unlimited potentials here for opportunities, and we're excited about all of them. Wilkshire knows Michigan State University Laboratory Preschool. They've been closely involved in professional development opportunities. Many of the materials that are used at Wilkshire came out of the study of developmentally appropriate practice at MSU. And so we are friends, and we have had a long-term friendship, and so it's natural that it develops into a partnership beyond the friendship. Michigan State University is excited about this partnership for a variety of reasons. Obviously, it's fun to work with a school district that has the tradition of excellence that Hazlet has. We would only work with a school district that had the same commitment and philosophy of continuous improvement. It's wonderful to be in a place where there is such high levels, some of the highest in the state, of family involvement, which is key in early childhood education. So we have all of that. And of course, as Bob talked about earlier, we really have the history that before most places in the state figured it out, Hazlet knew that young children learn best when you create special environments for them to learn and to grow. Hazlet began that 16 years ago, and this really is an extension of that early dream. Michigan State is also excited because, of course, our students will benefit. This is not just a service to Hazlet, but this is very much an asset for Michigan State University. All preschools, as you know, need not just good teachers, and you will have the best early childhood teachers on site, but you need lots of other people in classrooms so that there are low student-adult ratios, and so children have lots of adults to stimulate them and encourage them. Many of you know our early childhood students. These are not aides that are hired for a few dollars an hour. These are young men and women whose dream and whose passion is to work with young children. And when you get those people connected with kids, something really amazing happens. They have the enthusiasm and the hope and the dreams of what it will be to have their own classrooms. And so we have some of the brightest, most highly motivated students on the campus who have decided to do early childhood education. And our community will be delighted when they meet these young men and women. We know many of them already because they've been hired here as teachers in our elementary schools, but this will be an opportunity to get them very early in their careers and to help them grow and become the teachers that we want in Hazlet and we want across the state in early childhood education. I don't have a lot else to say other than many of these details, as Sharon said, we're going to have to spend the next year and a half working out. There isn't anything that we can't work out together because we have the same goals. One of the things I said to Bob early on that I'm most excited about is that he had this sense of what it could mean to really have age 3 or 2.5 or however that finally comes down to grade 12 education and how that can actually transform the entire system. What will happen when our children begin at 3? What will the whole school district look like? There's unbelievable capacity here really to transform a system. And the longitudinal research that can happen, how children begin to read and to be able to quantify will be amazing in this place. Since we've already deviated from protocol and made personal comments tonight, I'll throw in one as well. Although I'm representing Michigan State University here this evening proudly, at a personal level, I want to make my recommendation for this program. Many of you know that we had 3 children who graduated from Hazlitt, and each of them began at the laboratory school at Michigan State University and then matriculated to Hazlitt. They had a wonderful education here. None of them did poorly, and we've often credited to the good start they got and then the wonderful education they received as they came here. And one more sad historical note. My husband is old enough, actually the history is longer than 40 years. It's 50 because my husband was in the inaugural class of the laboratory preschool at Michigan State University. So on behalf of Michigan State University and the Hewitt family, I strongly endorse the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Jim.
I think we want to get into a discussion with the board on the project, entertain your questions, and I think it'd be appropriate if Lavelle and Lillian and Bob Hewitt could join us at the table. Thank you, and welcome for coming tonight.
It's a pleasure. It's good to see it coming to fruition.
Yes, it is. Exciting. I introduced earlier, but we have Lillian and Lavelle, and of course you all know Bob Hewitt. Lillian, is there anything you'd like to add, or?
This is so exciting. You just don't understand how I feel about this project, and I'm getting at the end of my years teaching and seeing this happening before I really leave Michigan State is just wonderful, just perfect. But can I diverge just a little bit? I was at the baby shower of a Hazlitt resident just this weekend. A baby shower. And at
You
that,
recruited the baby.
yes. And at that shower, there was a woman sitting next to me whom I introduced. I don't remember her name, but she was president of the Teachers Union for many, many years here. And she was just so sad about the superintendent leaving and some key staff leaving, and she was beyond any, I could not console her almost. She said they were the best she has worked with. I thought I'd let you know that.
That's nice.
She was the president of the Teachers Union here. Now, I'll just pass it on. June Hewitt did a wonderful job
did.
there.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to reiterate what everyone has said thus far. We're very excited about this opportunity. This is, I think, a great group of professionals to work with. I've really enjoyed the opportunity to get to know staff. Again, many of them have been students of mine at Michigan State, so it's very exciting to come and walk the halls of Wilkshire and to work with Sharon and Bob and David and Bob was going to leave. So we're really very excited, but also think that we're really entering something that is so extraordinary. The opportunities are endless. We also have been very excited to share the Child Development Laboratory with visitors from the board, and I encourage the remainder of the board members who have not had an opportunity to visit the laboratory to come and see us. But it is a place that we're very proud of. We're very excited to expand the opportunities for our community and for the field of early childhood education. And for that, I am so grateful. Very, very grateful. So thank you.
And the board, again, received a quick glimpse of Wilkshire and the footprint for the new preschool wing. And I've said this to the board again, but, or I've said it to the board before, I'll say it again, that Bob really has been the real staff architect for that wing. He's really taken a very, he's jumped into that project with both feet and has done just a wonderful job, and I think it's going to be a wonderful project. So with that, Bob, I'll let you say a few words too as the building principal.
Well, excited is probably an understatement. We invited Lavelle and a number of the staff members from the MSU Child Development Lab to come visit Wilkeshire a while ago. And watching them walk down the halls was like old home week. So many of our students came running out, you know, and recognized Lavelle and the teachers that came and visited. And if that wasn't exciting enough, a bunch of the teachers came out of the classroom and started getting excited, and because they had, like June said, that's where they started and got their training and carrying those practices over at Wilkeshire. So it really is not a new partnership, but just a continuation of an old partnership in many ways. And we're really looking forward to it.
Okay. Charlie, maybe it'd be appropriate for you to talk about, there was a board committee.
I think so. I was chairman of the ad hoc committee that Phil appointed to go over the agreement once it was resolved by the lawyers. You know, lawyers always have to get into it, but as we read through it, this is a great agreement. I think it meets Hazlitt's needs perfectly, and I think it meets MSU's needs perfectly too. But for the folks that are listening on TV and some of the folks out in the audience, Hazlitt kids are given a priority in this program. That was one of the things that the board stressed very early on, that Hazlitt kids will get a priority as far as enrollment in the program. Because we do expect a lot of people wanting to come into this program, and there'll be people from other communities. We're certainly hoping that the Hazlitt folks will want to come in too. The lab will utilize our district policies in the way they, you know, in everything that they do. Those are our policies of our district, because they really are in our district. For those people who worry about an exit clause, there is a termination clause in the agreement that allows either party with some, you know, some advance notice, that they don't feel it's working, that, you know, the agreement can be terminated. And I really don't think it's gonna happen. I just couldn't see it happening. There's plenty of communication lines set up in the agreement, both financial and, you know, verbal discussions to monitor the program. The dollars are gonna be handled by MSU, but of course there'll be an audit, as is required by law, and our district will you know, have access to the audit as well as all the financial numbers. So I have no fear that there's any problems financially in this program. For those parents who might be worried about backgrounds of the staff that will be working with children, there's clauses in here about doing background checks on the staff, the master teachers that we're going to have, as well as the students that will be working in the program. And that's important, that you can feel that your children will be exposed to wonderful people. And there will be background checks, and you know, security is always important. What else can I say? On a personal note, I had an opportunity to go over to the lab, and I'm not a professionally trained teacher or anything like that, but my goodness, what I saw was amazing, what was going on in those classrooms. There's 3-year-olds working independently on a computer. There are adults everywhere. I mean, young student teachers, yes, older adults too, and family members that are in there working. These kids do not lack for adult supervision or adult help. And it is so structured what they're doing. The kids don't even know, I don't think, that they're being led through a process. And because they're really enjoying themselves and they're really learning and getting along. And the facilities are great. It's a beautiful building. But what they're able to do, the way they're able to monitor and learn and, you know, develop the program is very good. So on behalf of the committee, which was Mike and Bev and I, this is a great agreement, and I support this program right to the end.
Fantastic, thank you.
Why don't you just clarify what the process will be for
Well, the process is we wanted to make this somewhat of a community forum through the board meeting. We're not taking action on this this evening, but I would suggest that at our next meeting, which would be, if we do meet on April 12th, I would suggest we do it on April 12th, that we execute the agreement. And now, if there's anybody in the community who has any questions or would like more information about the program, feel free to call us at the office, and we would try to entertain any questions or comments community members may have.
Okay. That's good.
But I do appreciate the support the board has given this project over the last couple of years, and your continued encouragement to continue to pursue this. I think it's going to be a tremendous community service.
Anybody else have any comments?
Nothing really new, except that I just see this, when I heard about this project, I was just so excited, because this is such a great opportunity for the families here in Hazlet, raising their young children, to have this laboratory school available to them as part of our school district in collaboration with MSU. And it just seems like a natural. It's a win-win situation for both entities. And I'm just, so excited. I can hardly wait for it to open and get in there and see the kids and the people working.
Who's next?
Go ahead.
I just wanted, this was already stated somewhat, but I just wanted to make sure it's clear to members of the community that for those of you who don't specifically remember voting for this on the last bond issue, that you did vote for a preschool building. At that time, we had no realization that it could become something this wonderful for Hazlet. And but I just want to make sure people understand that, because I've had a few people ask me saying, I don't remember we were going to put in an MSU lab preschool at Wilkshire. And no, that wasn't it. We were going to put in a preschool facility, and we were fortunate enough with Bob's leadership to bring in such a wonderful program.
Scott?
I just have two questions here. Not questions, one question and one comment. It said something about applications are going to be spring of 2004, but I'm not sure if that's not confusing as far as if someone out there said, gee, that's something I really want to get into. Are they accepting applications in the spring, or are they considering applications for what in the spring of 2004? I mean, if I was a parent and said, gee, I want to do that, I want to get in on the ground floor, would they be contacting your childhood center or housing schools like it said on the board? This is spring of 2004 right now, so I guess I'm wondering when that's going to happen.
Spring.
It says information available.
Yeah.
It didn't say applications available.
Okay, so the information does not include an application. So,
Well, that hasn't been really set yet, but it might be too early for that.
so that's yet to be determined as far as
They
that.
start a waiting list right away, I don't know.
That's it, okay. Okay.
Because I think, LaBelle, you could mention that you have people who call your office years.
Sweet.
Well, that's what we had heard from an
Maybe in
earlier
the
meeting,
hospital.
that you have waiting lists already at your existing place. So I'm suspicious that maybe we're not going to be any different than that here. Hopefully, right?
Hopefully, we will not be any
Yeah.
different here. And as you said before, people will call from the hospital when their child is born and say, we have a name. Can our application be processed at this point? And I think what we're doing is trying to make sure information is available. We start to look at enrollment in the spring for the next year in the winter. So this will give us some idea of the community's needs, their desire for what their desires are for programming, for future programming. So we really want to get some idea of what.
So they could call relatively soon and
Yes.
get their name on a list, so when the information does become available, it could be mailed to them, is that? Would that be a clarification?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. The last thing I'd like to say is, in spite of my youthful look, I've been on the board for quite a long time, and I'm now considered the historian, apparently, which shocks me to no end. But nevertheless, I will say this, is that from my previous experiences on the board, it's been, earlier boards, other than my fellow members here, have talked long and hard at many times as to why we never did collaborate more with a major university, which is down the road. And I just want to thank all of you, June, and you people as well, as far as we never dreamed it was going to come as an early L center. It could have been in any other area as well. But as far as the talk of this board has been going on for at least 2 decades that I know of, as far as collaborating with a major university just down the road. And it is gratifying and exciting, as Mike says and everybody else has said, that it's finally come to fruition. It's a shame that we have to wait till the 150-year anniversary for this to happen. But we haven't been around quite as long as MSU. But this is interesting. This is a very interesting time as far as to go ahead with something like this, and to collaborate with a major university for a district our size is, as has been stated earlier, I'm sure very unique and very exciting for all of us here. And it's long overdue. And some of my fellow board members from previous years, I'm sure they're all watching on TV tonight. So they always promise us that when they leave the board that they'll watch, but I'm sure that they're gratified somewhere in the knowledge that this has finally come to pass, and it's a good time. So thank you, MSU.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And we can reserve your grandkids' spaces.
Hey, careful.
Yeah.
And yours too.
Yeah, I know. Okay, anything else? Thank you very, very much for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We look forward. Okay, action items. We have 4 action items. Do I hear anyone would like to pull any action items? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion? Okay, we're going to vote on 4 action items: the approval of the minutes for the March 13th meeting, the resolution setting matters to be voted upon at the June 14th annual school election, the administration of election duties, and the approval of the compliance for the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act 1996. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Hearing none. Cheryl, 7-0. Okay, we have some announcements. Our next board meeting is now April 12th. Bob warned me earlier that this is going to get quite busy. Not only is Carl, you're going to approve this, we may potentially have some construction bids, correct, by maybe?
Yes.
Let me just finish before Bob. We've got some busy items, and they don't know how they're going to come out, but this committees probably have to meet. Bob will can talk about it here a second, but personnel and policy, personnel will need to be talking with Bob about Dave Martell's position, and Charlie's committee, the finance and facilities do have some big pending bids coming up that will be available in April. So we are going to be busy along with the search. So I just put up your antennas. Do you want to clarify any of that?
Well, I just think I'll be contacting the 2 chairs from Policy Personnel and Finance Facility Committee for upcoming committee meetings. And just a point of clarification, do we need to vote to formally schedule the April 12th meeting?
Isn't it a regularly scheduled meeting? Or
No.
did we already vote to? We already voted. We didn't have to vote.
That was not, in July how we schedule it?
No, it just has to be posted, I think.
Okay, all right, very good, so that'll be done. So we'll meet on the 12th of April.
Okay. Anything else? Any other announcements?
I would just like to comment on how wonderful the decorations are
Yes, I love the
provided to us, I believe, by
I
Wilkshire.
finally got to taste the desserts. They were pretty good.
Excellent, and that was,
Better late than
yeah,
never.
fabulous.
Okay. Do I,
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
second?
Well, support your entertainment.
Support while Charlie harasses him about it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, nobody's opposed. Cheryl. Meeting's adjourned.